The stars above the planet Corellan were quiet again. Just a week ago, a strange metal object had fallen from the sky. It roared through the clouds like a fire dragon and crashed deep into the eastern forest. The people of Corellan watched with wide eyes. It had been many years since anything from beyond their world had arrived. The Xantari, rulers of Corellan, sent a team to investigate. They found a broken starship. It was old, small, and not like any they had seen before. Inside, there was only one survivor, a human man, injured and unconscious. His name was Lieutenant Nathan Reyes, a pilot from Earth. He had no weapons left, no tools, and no idea where he was. The Xantari took him to the capital, Veltharion, and placed him in the Imperial Biolabs. He was studied like a rare animal. Scientists watched him through glass, scanned him with machines, and whispered in low voices. "He is weak," one said. "Primitive," said another. "Just a relic of a forgotten planet." But one person didn't agree. Princess Valerie, daughter of Empress Salix, was not like the others. She had always been curious about the stars, the past, and the worlds that were lost. When she heard about the human, she asked to see him. "It's just a human," her mother said. "A dead race, long behind us. But he's alive," Valerie replied. "And I want to see him with my own eyes." The Empress allowed it. Valerie walked into the observation room quietly. Her long silver robes flowed like light, and her golden eyes stared through the glass at the man inside. He sat on the edge of a soft bed, bandaged, silent and confused. His dark eyes looked back at her, filled with questions. He didn't speak her language. She didn't speak his. But still, something passed between them, a feeling of being alone in a world that didn't understand. "Can he hear me?" she asked the head researcher. "Yes, but his translator implant is damaged. He might only understand a few words." Valerie placed a hand on the glass, slowly. Nathan stood up and walked closer. He didn't show fear, only quiet strength. He didn't bow. He didn't look away. "He's not afraid of us," Valerie whispered. The scientist beside her frowned. "He should be. His kind is centuries behind us." Valerie didn't respond. She only watched him longer. Later that evening, during the court assembly, the topic of the human was raised. Many nobles spoke. "Destroy the ship, too dangerous. Put the human in a deep sleep. Study him later. He is a waste of resources." Then Valerie stood. Her voice was calm, but clear. "Mother," she said, "let me have him." The entire hall went silent. The Empress raised an eyebrow. "You want the human?" "Yes. Let him stay in my care. Not as a prisoner. Not as a lab subject. As my guest." Guests filled the air. A few nobles laughed softly. One of the generals leaned forward. "You want to protect it. He is not it. He is a man. And I believe he has something we do not yet understand." The Empress looked at her daughter for a long moment. The silence in the room grew heavy. "Why, Valerie?" The princess didn't hesitate, because in his eyes, I saw more than fear. I saw thought. I saw will. And I want to learn from that. Some in the court rolled their eyes. Others looked worried. But the Empress finally gave a slow nod. "Very well. The human will be placed under your care. But you will be responsible for everything he does. Do you accept that?" "I do." That night, Nathan was moved from the biolabs to a private chamber in the royal towers. He was given food, clean clothes, and a translator implant was repaired so he could understand their language again. When Valerie entered the room, he stood up. He didn't know her rank, but he could tell she was important. "Thank you," he said quietly. It was the first time they heard his voice. Valerie smiled. "You're welcome. I am Princess Valerie. You are now my guest." Nathan nodded slowly. "Nathan Reyes, Lieutenant, Earth Alliance. You are safe here," she said. "But many do not trust you. I need you to be careful." "I understand." They sat across from each other, a human and an alien, in a quiet room on a planet far from Earth. They talked for hours. Simple questions at first, about names, places, languages. Then deeper things, about family, loss, and dreams. Valerie learned that Earth had suffered wars, but had also shown great courage. Nathan learned that the Xantari once ruled half the galaxy, but had lost their heart over time. "Why did you ask for me?" he finally asked. She looked at him and said, "Because I believe you are not small. I believe your people are not forgotten. And I think we need something different." Nathan smiled for the first time. "You might be right." Nathan Reyes, the human pilot, slowly recovered from his injuries. His body was still weak, but his mind was sharp. He spent most of his time reading Xantari history from the digital library, listening to music from Earth on a small device he had hidden in his jacket, and talking to Princess Valeri. Valeri visited him every day. She asked questions about Earth, about humans, about how they thought and lived in return. She told him about the Xantari, their long empire, their rules, their mistakes. "I don't understand." Nathan said one afternoon, "You're a princess. Why are you spending time with me?" Valeri smiled. "Because you don't act like anyone else I've met." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "That's either a compliment or an insult." "It's a compliment," she said, laughing softly. "You challenge what I've been taught. That makes you dangerous and interesting." Nathan looked out the window at the shining towers of Veltharion. "So what happens now?" Valeri became serious. "Now, I ask the court to let you stay. Permanently." Nathan turned toward her. "What do you mean?" Valeri stood and paced the room slowly. "Right now, your status is temporary. You're still being watched. Many believe you should be returned to the labs, or worse. I figured as much." Nathan said quietly, "I'm going to change that." She continued, "Tomorrow, I will make a formal request. I want you recognized not just as a guest, but as a diplomatic representative of Earth." Nathan blinked. "I'm a pilot, not a diplomat. You're the only human here," she said gently, "and that makes you Earth's voice." Whether you want it or not, Nathan leaned back in his chair. He didn't feel ready for such a big role, but he could see the seriousness in her eyes. She believed in him. "All right," he said. "Let's try." The next day, the Great Hall of Judgment was filled with nobles, military leaders, and scholars. The Empress sat on her throne, tall and silent, dressed in white and silver robes that glowed in the sunlight. When Princess Valeri stepped forward, all eyes turned to her. "I come today," she began, "not with a request for power or privilege, but with a request for wisdom and peace." She looked directly at her mother, then at the nobles. "Humanity, once forgotten by our records, now stands here before us in the form of Nathan Reyes. He is not a threat. He is not a mistake. He is proof that life beyond our control continues, grows, and learns." Whispers moved through the crowd. Some looked confused, others frowned. "I ask," Valeri continued, "that the court recognize Lieutenant Reyes not as a subject of study, but as a diplomatic guest of Corellan. Let him live freely. Let him speak. Let him be heard." The Empress raised a hand. Silence followed. "You speak with passion, Valeri," the Empress said, "but many here do not trust the human." "Why should we take this risk?" Valeri answered firmly, "Because for too long, we have locked ourselves behind walls of pride. We stop learning. We stop listening. The human reminds us of what we once were, curious, strong, and brave." A general stood up. "We do not know his intentions. What if Earth sends more? What if they want something?" Nathan, who had been standing quietly beside the guards, stepped forward. "I don't speak for all of Earth," he said clearly, "but I know this. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes, but we don't give up. We don't kneel just because someone is stronger. We adapt. We survive. That's who we are." He looked around the hall. "I didn't come here to take anything. I came here because my ship crashed. I stayed because your princess believed in me." There was silence. Then the Empress spoke again. "Very well. Let it be known. By royal decree, Nathan Reyes of Earth is now under royal protection. He shall serve as the first official guest of humanity in Corellan. His actions will reflect on both our peoples. Let peace guide his path." Valeri let out a quiet breath. Nathan gave a small nod as they left the hall together. Nathan whispered, "You really went all in, huh?" Valeri smiled. "I told you, you're not small." Over the next few weeks, Nathan was invited to official dinners, science forums, and cultural events. He wore clothes designed by Corellan artisans, but still kept a small Earth emblem on his collar, a reminder of where he came from. Many Xantari still looked at him with curiosity or doubt, but some began to speak with him, carefully, respectfully. They asked about Earth's books, Earth's science, Earth's art. Valeri stayed by his side. She guided him through Xantari customs, but never once tried to change who he was. One evening, as the sun set behind the sky towers, Nathan and Valeri stood on a balcony. "I think they're starting to accept you," she said. "I think they're starting to watch me," he joked. "You've already done more than any ambassador could," she said. "You showed them that humans still have something worth listening to." Nathan looked at her. "What about you? Why do you really care so much?" Valeri was quiet for a moment. "Because I've always felt like I didn't belong here," she said softly. "Too many rules, too many voices telling me what I should be. But when I met you, I realized something." "What's that?" "That sometimes we need a stranger to remind us who we are." Nathan didn't speak. He just smiled and looked at the stars above. Far beyond, Earth was still out there. But here, on this alien world, he had found something unexpected: respect, purpose, and a friend. The cold winds of Kyreland's high season swept through the palace courtyards. Colored banners fluttered above the towers, and the city buzzed with excitement. Once every 10 years, the Tournament of Wills was held, a royal event where minds were tested, not just bodies. Unlike battles of swords or ships, this was a competition of strategy, wisdom, and heart. It was designed to find those who could lead, decide, and protect with honor. The winner gained the respect of all and the attention of the Empress. This year, something unusual was happening. For the first time in history, a human was entering the tournament. His name was Lieutenant Nathan Reyes, and his presence alone was enough to shake the halls of tradition. Nathan stood in a large training room, reading the rules of the tournament on a digital screen. There would be 5 stages: a logic puzzle, a diplomatic test, a survival simulation, a moral dilemma, and the final, a live leadership challenge. "I'm not even Xantari," he said. "Why are they letting me do this?" Princess Valeri walked beside him, holding a tablet of her own. "Because I asked for it," she said simply. Nathan gave her a sideways look. "You really like taking big risks, don't you?" She smiled. "You said Earth never gives up." "I believe that, but now you must show them." "Great," Nathan said. "No pressure at all." The first challenge was held in the Hall of Mind, a room filled with floating blocks and shimmering light. The logic puzzle changed shape every minute. Competitors had to find a pattern before the time ran out. Nathan stared at the shapes. Xantari competitors moved quickly, their minds trained from birth to solve such things. Nathan was slower, thinking differently, but in the final seconds, he did something no one else tried. He tilted his view sideways and looked from a new angle. The puzzle clicked. A quiet chime rang. He passed. The crowd murmured in surprise. The second challenge tested diplomacy. Each participant was placed in a room with 3 alien species, each with different needs, languages, and goals. The test: make peace among them. Nathan listened. He didn't rush. He asked questions. He watched their faces, their tone, their hands. Instead of commanding, he invited them to share ideas. He didn't try to win. He tried to understand. At the end, the computer judged his session as the most successful of the day. People in the audience began to whisper, could the human actually win something? The third stage, survival simulation, dropped each contestant into a hostile virtual world. Windstorms, predators, hunger, and isolation. Some used tools, others fought beasts. But Nathan did something different. He built a signal tower. Instead of hunting or hiding, he found a way to call for rescue. He knew survival was not only about strength, but about thinking ahead. The judges gave him a high score, even a few. Military commanders nodded in respect. Then came the 4th stage, the dilemma room. Each participant was shown a scene, a crisis. A city was under attack. They had limited time and resources. One choice could save thousands, but cost innocent. lives elsewhere. Another choice could save the few, but risk the many. Many competitors froze. Some picked the logical option. Some chose to protect their own race. Nathan stood still for a moment, then said something no one expected. I wouldn't choose either. The judges looked at him. You must choose. Nathan shook his head. There's always a third way, even if it's not perfect. I'd risk myself to delay the attack, my time for both groups to escape. I'd rather fail trying than win by sacrificing someone innocent. There was silence. One judge whispered, unusual. Another said, human thinking. But all of them gave him high marks for moral courage. By the time of the final challenge, the city of Viltharion had changed. Children cheered his name in the streets. Merchants sold tiny human dolls. And many nobles began asking Princess Valeria about Earth's culture, Earth's history. Earth's people. Nathan was no longer a stranger. He was becoming a symbol. The last stage was a real-time leadership trial, a simulated emergency, with actors, soldiers, and citizens playing their roles. Nathan had to lead them through a disaster scenario, a reactor meltdown in a city tower. While others barked orders or panicked, Nathan did something different. He listened. He asked his team what they needed. He encouraged them. He shared responsibility. He stayed calm. And in the end, though the simulation failed to be perfect, his team survived with the lowest number of losses among all finalists. After the tournament, the scores were announced in the Grand Hall. Nathan did not win first place. A brilliant Xantari tactician named Selen Voss took the prize, but Nathan's name was called second. And when the Empress stood, the hall went silent. Lieutenant Nathan Reyes of Earth, she said, has shown not only skill, but spirit. He has reminded us of values we sometimes forget: kindness, courage, and the strength to think differently. The crowd applauded. Some even stood. Nathan bowed slightly, then stepped back. As he returned to his seat beside Valerie, she leaned close. You didn't need to win, she whispered. You already changed everything. Nathan gave a soft smile. Feels strange. Being accepted by people who wanted me in a cage last month. That's what makes it powerful. She said, you earned it. Later that night, as fireworks lit up the sky, Nathan stood on the palace balcony alone. He looked up at the stars, thinking of Earth, of his lost ship, of how far he had come. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He was something more. Behind him, Valerie walking quietly. They're talking about you in every court across the empire, she said. Let me guess, half of them are worried. More, like curious, some impressed. Nathan turned to her. And you? I already knew what you were, she said softly. Now they're just catching up. They stood side by side, watching the sky. Above them, the stars burned brightly, and among them, a new light had begun to shine. The celebration after the tournament didn't last long. Just 2 weeks later, the skies over Corellon turned dark, not because of clouds, but because of something far more dangerous. A strange signal began to echo across the stars. It was cold, sharp, and full of static. The message repeated every 12 seconds in a robotic voice. System located. Purge begins. The royal scientists quickly traced it. The source was coming from the edge of the Nithx void, a dead zone in space where nothing living had ever returned. And now, something had awakened. In the palace war chamber, a large hologram showed a fleet, not of ships, but of machines. Silver-gray structures shaped like insects, hundreds of them, flying in perfect formation. They are the Vilshari, said High Commander Reelan, his voice heavy. Artificial beings. We thought they were destroyed centuries ago. Nathan stood beside Princess Valerie, watching the display closely. You fought them before? He asked. We didn't fight them, the commander replied. We ran. Long ago, they wiped out half the border colonies. No diplomacy, no emotion, just cold, calculated destruction. Valerie looked at her mother. What do we do now? Empress Salix stood slowly. We prepare for war. In the following days, the peaceful towers of Viltharion turned into a fortress. Energy shields were tested. Space cannons were loaded. Military officers returned from faraway stations. But Nathan noticed something troubling. The Xantari were too confident. They rely on their technology too much, he said to Valeri. They think because they have the best ships, they can't lose. Valeri agreed. It's been a long time since we faced a real threat. Maybe we forgot how to struggle. Nathan thought of Earth, a planet where survival had never been easy. Storms, wars, shortages, but humans always found a way. You need something your empire lost, he said. You need human unpredictability. That evening, Nathan made a bold request. He asked the Empress to let him join the War Council. At first, the room laughed. A human advising a council of generals. But Valeri stood with him. This is not just a Xantari matter, she said. If the Vilshari rise again, no world is safe. Earth will be in danger too. Nathan represents more than himself. The Empress looked at Nathan. What do you offer us, human? Nathan replied calmly. I offer you perspective. I come from a world that doesn't always have the best tools. But we survive by thinking differently. If you only fight with strength, they'll match it. But if you fight with creativity, you might win. There was silence. Then the Empress nodded. Very well. You may sit on the council, for now. The first council meeting was full of data and strategy. The Xantari planned to build a massive blockade near the outer moons. Their plan was clean, logical, and precise. But Nathan raised his hand. This won't work, he said. One general frowned. And why not? Because the Vilshari don't fight like you. They study your patterns. They'll expect this formation. You need to break your own habits. Another general leaned forward. Then what do you suggest? Nathan walked to the table and pulled up a hologram of the moon systems. You have terrain. Use it. Set traps. Move your ships and scattered. Waves, not lines. Trick them into thinking you're weaker in one area. Then surround them. The room grew quiet. One of the generals finally said, unpredictable, risky, human. But it might work, said Valeri. The Empress looked at Nathan thoughtfully. Plan it. As days passed, Nathan worked alongside Xantari engineers and officers. He helped them adjust their tactics, change their thinking. It wasn't easy. Many still doubted him. But when small scouting drones from the Vilshari arrived, Nathan's strategies worked. The enemy was confused, delayed, and forced to retreat. That day, even the Empress admitted, you have brought something valuable to our people. One evening, after hours of planning, Nathan and Valeri walked alone in the palace garden. The night sky above was full of stars, but both knew danger was coming closer. You could have stayed silent, Valeri said. Live quietly in the tower. Why did this? Nathan looked at her. Because Earth taught me something. When danger comes, you don't sit and watch. You stand up. She smiled gently. You make me believe change is possible. He looked at her, and you made me believe I could belong here. They didn't speak after that. They just stood under the stars, closer than they had ever been. 2 days later, alarms rang across the capital. The Vilshari fleet had entered Corellan. Space, hundreds of cold, shining ships now moved toward the outer colonies. The sky over the outer planets turned dark with their shadows. The war had begun. From the command station above the planet, the Xantari fleet launched into space. Nathan sat beside Commander Reelan on the lead ship, helping guide the strategy. Valeri, now leading a secondary unit, sent a message. Let's show them what humans and Xantari can do together. Nathan smiled. Let's give them a surprise they'll never forget. As the battle began, the stars lit up with flashes of light, beams, missiles, shields. It was like a storm across the sky. But this time, the Xantari weren't fighting alone. They had Nathan. They had hope. The space above Corellan burned with light. The Vilshari fleet, cold and metallic, moved like a shadow across the stars. Hundreds of their ships attacked the outer defenses, firing without fear or emotion. Their purpose was simple: destroy everything. Inside the Xantari command ship, Nathan Reyes stood at the control table. His eyes scanned the battlefield through a large holographic screen. Red lights flashed across it, each one marking a ship that had fallen. Commander Reelan shouted to his crew, Sector Delta is losing shields. Move support units now. Nathan pointed quickly at a formation. Don't send them straight. The Velshari will predict that. Take them from the lower orbit. Use the gas moon to block their sensors. The commander paused, then nodded. Do it. Nathan wasn't a soldier here. He wasn't even a citizen. But in the middle of a war between empires, he had become something more, a bridge between two worlds. On the second day of battle, the enemy reached the moons of Corellan. Valeri's fleet was stationed there, guarding a vital energy relay that powered the city shields. If the relay fell, the capital would be defenseless. Nathan watched closely as Valeri's voice came through the comms. Enemy ships approaching fast. Formation B is ready. Beginning diversion maneuver. Nathan smiled. She had used one of his ideas, pretending to retreat, then striking from above using small, agile crafts. It worked. Several Velshari ships broke formation, chasing the decoy. Valeri's team struck from behind and took down 3 ships in seconds. Cheers erupted across the command deck, but then silence. Another signal came in. A Xantari base on the southern moon was under attack, and they had no escape route. Commander Reelan frowned. We can't save them. If we move our forces now, the capital will be exposed. Nathan looked at the screen. The people on that base were scientists, workers, not soldiers. They had no chance. Valeri's voice came again. I request permission to assist the southern moon. The Empress, listening from the palace, answered sharply. Denied. Your mission is to guard the relay. Do not risk the capital. Nathan stepped forward. Let her go. I'll take command of the relay unit. The Empress stared at him through the screen. You would take her place? Yes. Nathan said without hesitation. She's faster. Her ships are lighter. She can save them. Let her go. I'll hold the relay. There was a long pause. Finally, the Empress said, Approved. But if the relay falls, your name will be remembered as a warning. Nathan gave a quiet nod. Understood. Valeri flew into danger. Her fleet broke through the enemy lines and reached the southern moon just in time. They shielded the base, rescued the trap teams, and left just before the area exploded. The people cheered her name as a hero. Meanwhile, Nathan commanded the defense of the relay. His strategies, though unusual to the Xantari, confused the Velshari. He used energy bursts to blind their sensors, sent fake signals to mislead them, and even ordered one ship to crash into an enemy cruiser, unmanned, of course. The Xantari officers under him followed his orders. Even when they didn't understand them, after 5 long hours, the enemy retreated. From the relay station, Nathan sat down, tired but alive. One officer looked at him with new respect. You fight like no Xantari. Nathan smiled. That's because I'm not. Later that night, the War Council met again. The Empress was present in person this time. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed the weight of leadership. You saved the capital, she said to Nathan. You saved the southern moon, she said to Valeri. But this war is not over. She turned to the council. We must decide now. Do we call for help? Gasps filled the room. From who? Asked one noble. We have no allies. There's one, said Valeri quietly. Nathan looked at her. He knew what she meant. Earth, she said aloud. Some laughed, others shouted. They are too far. They are weak. They will bring their chaos here. But Valeri stood firm. We are already losing. Earth has faced worse. Let them stand beside us. The Empress looked at Nathan. Would your people come? Nathan thought for a moment. Then he said, if I send a message and they believe it's real, they will come. Not because they want to rule, but because it's the right thing to do. The Empress walked slowly to the center of the room, then send the message. Nathan stood in a quiet chamber, speaking to a communicator that reached across space. This is Lieutenant Nathan Reyes, last survivor of the Scifi's crew. The Xantari Empire is under attack by a machine race called the Velshari. They are powerful. They don't stop. But we have a chance to fight back, together. He paused, then added one more thing. If you hear this, tell Earth that humanity is needed. He closed the message. Now, all they could do was wait. The next morning, as the sun rose over Corellan, Valeri and Nathan walked through the quiet gardens. Why did you give up your position so easily? She asked him. You could have stayed. Safe. He looked at her. Because some things are more important than safety. She stopped and faced him. And what if Earth never answers? Then we fight with what we have. Nathan said, and we still don't give up. Valeri touched his arm gently. You were supposed to be my guest. But now, you've become more than that. Nathan looked into her golden eyes. You gave me a place when I had nothing. You believed in me. That means more than any medal. She smiled. When I said, Mother, let me have him, I didn't know what I was really asking for. But now, I do. They stood in silence as the sky turned brighter. Far away, beyond the stars, a signal was moving toward Earth. And soon, the stars would answer. The sky above Corellan had never looked so uncertain. Every day, the enemy fleet grew stronger. The Vilshari, cold machines from the dark edges of the galaxy, continued their push toward the heart of the Xantari Empire. Their ships were fast, their tactics were smart, and their goal was simple: complete destruction. Inside the command center, Lieutenant Nathan Reyes stood beside Princess Valeri, watching the battle maps update in real time. Red marks showed lost territories. Blue ones showed the last few strongholds. How long do we have? Nathan asked quietly. Commander Reelan replied, 3 days, maybe 4, if the shields hold. Valeri looked at Nathan. Still no answer from Earth. Nathan shook his head. Nothing yet. The room was silent, but deep inside, no one had given up, especially not Nathan. I sent the signal. He said, now we just have to believe. On the second night, as the capital prepared for evacuation plans, Nathan stood alone on the balcony of the Royal Tower. The stars above him were beautiful, but they felt heavy, like they were watching. Suddenly, a voice called from behind. You still believe they'll come? It was Valeri. Nathan turned. Yes, they will. I know. My people. She walked closer. You believe in them the way I believed in you? Nathan smiled. That belief is what saved me. They stood side by side. Then, without warning, an alert echoed across the city. A soft chime, not a warning of attack, but something else. Signal. Nathan rushed to the communication room. The message was short. Human, clear, and powerful. Earth Alliance fleet en route. Hold the line. Reinforcements arriving in 6 hours. Nathan stared at the screen. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he turned to Valeri with wide eyes. They're coming. 6 hours later, just as the Vilshari began their final assault, the skies cracked open with light. Through a massive wormgate, a fleet of Earth ships entered Corellan space, sleek, fast, and armed with the best weapons humanity had. Dozens of vessels took formation alongside the Xantari ships. On the lead Earth ship, a message played through every speaker in the system. This is Admiral Leon of the Earth Alliance. We fight beside Corellan today, not for conquest, but for peace. The Xantari fleet cheered. Nathan stood on the bridge of the command ship, watching as Earth and Xantari vessels worked side by side. The final battle had begun. The sky was filled with chaos. Energy blasts, ship debris, warning sirens. The Vilshari fought with perfect coordination, never panicking, never retreating. But this time, they faced something they hadn't planned for. Human unpredictability. Nathan led one of the tactical teams. His plans were not always logical, but they were effective. Earth ships dropped decoys, used asteroid belts for cover, and turned the battlefield into a maze of confusion. Meanwhile, Valeri commanded her squadron with speed and grace. She had learned from Nathan to think outside the system. Together, they created openings that allowed both fleets to hit the Vilshari escort ships. Hours passed. Ships fell, but the unity between human and Xantari forces made the difference. At last, the main Vilshari control vessel was targeted. Nathan gave the command. All units, focus fire. Thousands of blasts hit the ship at once. It cracked, shook, and finally exploded into a ball of light. The machine stopped moving. The Vilshari were defeated. The silence after the battle was almost louder than the war itself. Back on Corellan, the people cheered in the streets. Bells rang in every city. Children sang the names of the heroes who stood between their world and destruction. In the palace, the Empress stood in front of the gathered leaders. Nathan and Valeri stood beside her. "We fought with strength," the Empress said, "but also with trust. Trust between worlds, between species, and between hearts." She turned to Nathan. "You were once a visitor, a question, a risk." She looked at Valeri. "And you were the one who said, 'Mother, let me have him?' Now, I understand." She raised a golden medal in her hand, with honor. "I name Lieutenant Nathan Race of Earth an ambassador of peace, and a friend of the crown." The hall applauded. Valeri smiled, her eyes bright. "You did it?" Nathan looked at her. "We did it." Months later, Corellan and Earth signed the Galactic Accord of Unity, a promise of friendship, trade, and defense. For the first time in history, two very different worlds had come together. Nathan remained on Corellan as Earth's first ambassador. He worked in both courts, helping to build bridges between cultures. He also remained close to Valeri. Some whispered that their bond was stronger than politics, but no one questioned it because they had saved the galaxy together. One evening, while walking through the royal gardens, Valeri turned to Nathan and said, "Do you remember the first time we met?" He laughed. "I was behind glass, thought you were some kind of queen from a dream. I was just curious about you," she said, "and I was trying not to pass out from the medicine," he replied. They both laughed. Then she said, "And now?" Nathan looked at her and said softly, "Now I know I was meant to crash here." Valeri smiled. "So was I meant to find you?" They stood together under the stars, not as royalty and guests, not as alien and human, but as equals. And as the stars shone above, one thing became clear. The story of Corellan and Earth had only just begun.